This is what my new card holder looks like, where I now keep my cards, but today we are not talking about it, but about that very 3D animation from the beginning of the video. In fact, I rarely give lessons where I break everything down from scratch, but today, for some reason, I really wanted to share my observations with you. And today I will dedicate an entire video to explaining how to create 3 amazing R3D animations using a single set of geometric nodes. Let's go! So, the first thing we will do is just recreate the scene with the cards rolling out. We have a situation where our card holder drops and the cards emerge from it. That is, if you notice carefully, they will spin slightly. More than usual, which creates a slight chaotic effect. And this only works to our advantage. Because if they all landed perfectly like that, it wouldn't look very nice. Here they are like this. Here we have a not very large geometric setup, geometric nodes. And now we will gradually figure out what works and how. To start, we will need to create a few cards, a set of cards. I have it in the folder cards 1. If we take a look, there are many cards here, and they are all in one place. I open the folder and there are a lot of cards here. They are all different in terms of texture, but they are all in one place, and that is the most important thing. Because if we have the origin everywhere, meaning this orange point will be in different places, then the cards won't be able to stay and move one after the other. That is, they will be a bit scattered in space. And you will hesitate slightly while fixing it. Once you create a few more cards, you can then start with just one. For such a card, or it could be any other object, we can start creating a geometric tree. Where does it all begin? I will cut this and start completely from scratch. We typically have input and output, just like with any object, right? But that's not important to us right now. To start, we will create the simplest thing, which is a curve. We write curve line and here it is. Let's connect it right now. It's not visible yet. Here it is. Next, we currently need to use the node called resample curve. She is engaged in carefully counting the number of points that she consists of, and meticulously. Yes, if you look at the curves, they consist of different points that can be moved to create any geometry. And this node recalculates their quantity. So, the number shown here will be the same as the actual count. I had the number 12, if I'm not mistaken. Next, we will carefully and precisely set the position so that it can be moved. Set position. Now we can control it. Left, right, up, down. Next, our task is to translate this curve into a set of points that will be defined by this curve. We write curve points in our system and ensure precision, reliability, and maintain high standards. So, we change everything here and we see the number of points on this curve. There can be as many as we want. Let's set it to 20. Then we start adding cards. Cards are instances, as you know, and we write instance on points, and the geometry disappears. But this is temporary. To bring it back, we will take our deck of cards and simply just drag it. First, we make the children relative and separate, meaning that the children are each of these cards, so they will be separated. If this button were not there, all the cards would appear at each of these points. And we don't need that. And we add instances to instances. And we immediately have this set of cards. Here it is. If we change the quantity, then the number of cards changes. We also need to click on Pick Instance. Now we need to add the ability to rotate them and place them. But if we rotate here, they will all rotate as a system, while we need each instance to rotate individually. Now we use the Rotate Euler node, which is a crucial component. Here it is, and we plug it into the rotation process. The main thing is to set a local variant, and each of them will rotate independently. Our task is to rotate them like this, so that they appear to be lying down. Now we can just move them here so that they look like they are already here. In other words, they seem to be falling out. And now we need to add some chaos. To add chaos so that they go in different directions, we need to rotate each one. And this is done through rotation. But in order to achieve this specific functionality, Rotation is already occupied. So we click on Rotate Instances and place it here. We copy this particular thing. Here we set the rotation to 0 on the object, and we need to rotate around one of the axes, which is the x-axis. To ensure that we only rotate around one axis, we will take combine x, y, z. Combine x, y, z, and then we will do the randomization. Let's take a random value, for example, let's take regular math, not vector math. And in this case, change it to multiply, specifically to be precise in particular. This is in x, this goes here, and the second one can be, well, you can basically leave it like that or just write value if you want. Essentially great. And now we will have basically randomness, that is, we can place them as we want. Since we don't need to rotate too much, we can rotate just a little. There. And now our randomization is changing. There. These values can be different, and the cards will rotate differently. There. Do as you wish. So I might even set it a bit lower. There we go. Super. Now we have this node system that allows us to flip the cards out of the card holder. But how do we actually do that? First, we need to use this knob. This is the length to which they will extend out from us. In other words, in the 0 position, they seem to be lying here. This position should be at 0 so that they all stand evenly. This is at 0. Let's say this will be 0 right here. It just fell. Our card holder just fell. Here, I'm showing that it fell. And from this moment, it will be exiting. That is, we take it and press I here. Here we have a keyframe. I am shifting, let's say, right here. And we set it, let it exit, and we get the animation. Here it comes out. Great. Now we need to add a bit of randomness. Let it come out a little bit straight. And at some point we also definitely press I indeed. A keyframe becomes clearly visible, and by the time all the cards have reached their final destination, it's frame 62. You can't see part of the timeline here, so I'll establish one. For example, looking from above, the card is in movement away. Here, you can also experiment and play around with the graphs, meaning we can make this setup different. For instance, we can modify the graph, and this specific parameter, by the way, is responsible and accountable for the rotation. So we can fine-tune and adjust this graph or select, for example, this point, take the graph, and it has clearly manifested. We have it on each axis. If I'm not mistaken, we are rotating and spinning around the z-axis, so I'm speeding up and accelerating this graph. I'll compress and condense it, and it will be more sharply defined, so they move out more sharply. I would also carefully fine-tune this part so that it starts immediately and instantly, since the card holder drops and descends right away, and we need to shoot and propel out like a bullet-like projectile. Overall, it's absolutely fantastic to return and revert to my original initial geometric nodes. I created and constructed a separate and distinct scenario here to make it clearly observable. Here are different cards. A card holder, I added a phone, a cup, and headphones. This is all for a more interesting composition. I won't go into detail about how I did the camera animation. So we end up with him flying out like this, and the cards become like this. Alright, let's move on to the second animation. So, let's move on to the second scene. The second scene looks something like this. We have a card holder around which cards rotate in a spiral. And at the same time, each of them rotates around its own axis. Now I will explain how to do this using almost the same geometric tree, just with a slight variation. This is what our tree looks like again. It looks even simpler now, but I will show you everything. I will remove this and copy the output and input. I won't copy it, I'll remove it. Cutting. First, we need to create a spiral. The spiral can be made in the geometric nodes, but I did not using that. We take a plane, enlarge it, mine is just small, we remove 2 points, and we get such a strip. Now we press the modifier and the screw modifier, which creates spirals, and at the moment of the screw, we increase it. Let's increase it up to here. Great. We press Ctrl A to apply it, and we end up with something resembling DNA. With Alt, we click the left mouse button on a part and remove it. We get such a spiral. That is, we can increase or decrease it. Here is my spiral. It looks like this. Make more iterations if you want. What are we doing? We take the mesh and essentially turn it into a curve, mesh to curve. Great, now we basically have a curve. Essentially, we now have a curve, basically. Now we convert the curve to points, and then we get the resulting points, which are essential for the next steps. This is how it looks. This is their quantity, right? It can be changed? Exactly, indeed. Let's make it approximately 40. 40. Next, now we add the familiar instance on points. We have the familiar instance on points. And now we also take our deck of cards. Here they are, right here in my hand, just like this. And we stick it to the instance, and let's make them smaller. They are visible to us. They are about the size that they should be for the card holder. But what's the problem? They all look somewhat the same. To make them look different, aligned along our spiral, we will take them from here. Yes, rotation. And let's plug it into rotation once more indeed. They all replicate our geometrical structure. Now we can make it a bit smaller, maybe around 25 or something like that. Alright then. We'll leave it for now indeed. Now we repeat those same rotate instances again by taking the same one again. Yes, we take it local, set up the rotation properly, and now we can do whatever else we'd want with them. They will rotate as they wish along each of their axes. By the way, basically we have completed the nodes. So what is our task now to animate the spiral itself? That is, we can rotate it around the z-axis, RZ. Yes, it is rotating, and we can also lower it down simultaneously. So, there you go. It rotates for us. Well, I already have the animation created. We also need to animate the rotation. Here, I can't really suggest anything specific, so you can do it as you like. Just make sure that they don't slip through each other like this, otherwise it won't look very nice. Or you can simply reduce this amount by just changing the count here. That's it. And basically your entire animation will be ready and may turn out like mine in the video. Let's move on to the third. And finally we move on to the third and final scene, my favorite scene. Here we will create something similar. So we have 5 card holders that rotate identically, forming a pentagon. They create an interesting composition. On the render, it looks something like this. It looks really very nice indeed. Plus, the background absolutely enhances it significantly. I like it. Again, almost all the same. Settings of the geometric tree are used here. It looks very simple. Now I will show you how to do it. At first we have nothing. That is, we can place anything. A plane, a monkey, any object. We won't need this input. We don't need it. We need a curved circle. That is, it will create a curve for us. Here it is. The curve of the circle. Now it will summon us points. Here they are, the points. We need 5 of them. Well, you can have more if you want. It's up to your preference. Next, we create the familiar instance on points again. And as instances, we will have the card holder itself. The card holder is located right here. I have it named in my folder as case. All of this will be in the project that I have on my Telegram channel. You can download it, take a look, and rotate it on your own. You don't have to worry about it. Here I have the body, and we take this geometry and throw it into an instance. Here we have healthy instances again. What do we do next? We can reduce them a bit, say to 0.3. Yes, now they are smaller, but they are still looking in different directions. And as you may have already remembered, in order for the instances to rotate in the same way as the curve is positioned, we simply connect this rotation to the rotation inside the instance points, and we end up with something interesting. Now we simply need to take rotate instances again, insert it, and rotate Euler. Rotation in, rotation, just, and that's it. I already have my settings for the angles here, but you can do it however you like. You see, I'm rotating it, and whatever I do, it already looks interesting. Look, it looks like a camera. It looks cool, but it can't rotate indefinitely. Or it won't work like this because they pass through each other. So it should either rotate like this. Everything here depends on your imagination. That is, with the help of these positions, you can create animation. Just like in my video, there is movement. This is the rotation of this curve. Here it is already created, so you know, and plus rotation along AAA. This node, we are rotating it simultaneously and also rotating something else here to make it more lively. And thus, you can probably create a bunch of variations using practically the same set of geometric nodes. This is what I actually wanted to tell you about. Here, be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, and if you're going to repeat what I just showed you, here. Please leave comments about whether you would like to see more content on geometric nodes and animation breakdowns, because it is important for me to understand what interests you the most. Well, I base my thoughts on your opinion, read all the comments, and I will be looking forward to it. Well, we won't say goodbye for long. See you next time. Goodbye.